but I'm good.
Excellent. We're getting started here. Welcome to Dawn Agreement, the Book of Rorvin, Chapter 1. The first thing to note is that I am again fooling around with audio settings, so I have no idea how this episode is going to sound. We're hoping that the audio issues with the music being too loud have been solved. The problem with it is that in order for it to work, the music has to be so soft that I can't hear it. So, anyway, it's just absurd. Rorvin Nursk, you are traveling with your family's military unit south off of the front with the Holy Kingdom of Carcass. You've been traveling for several weeks together, and all of your soldiers are prepared to disband at this point, either head home or spend their hard-earned paychecks in Silvermarsh, the large city that you are currently approaching. As you travel to Silvermarsh with your unit, the number of merchants and travelers heading away from Silvermarsh is quite few. In fact, it's unseasonably few. Perhaps it is simply the nature of the conflict with the Holy Kingdom of Carcass, or just the fact that there is no food to be had along the journey. But the only singular transit you see is one cart with a lot of goods loaded into the back of it, a dwarf driving it, and a tiefling in shiny armor sitting in the back. As you approach the Silvermarshian gates, many of your men are already discussing loudly what they will do with their paychecks, but your eye is caught by one individual outside the town walls, beside the line of people who are queuing to enter the town, holding a giant placard that says Lieutenant Rorvin Nursk. It's clear by the way their eye passes over you repeatedly that they have no idea who you are. They're just waiting.
I think Rorvin is going to, at this point, look at one of his, I would say maybe like one of his sergeants of his military, and
Yep.
pretty much direct him to go. It's like, will you go answer that man? Pretend you're me. Thank you.
Okay. So your sergeant breaks away to go answer this person, and there's a lot of discussion, and at some point about 2 minutes into the discussion, your sergeant is like holding up their hands and like, whoa, okay. And he surreptitiously makes his way back to you. So it's like he's trying to avoid returning directly to you so that the person with the placard can't figure out who you are, right?
Right.
So he like stands back to back with you and says, "Sir, first off, that's not a man, it's a woman."
Oh, apologies.
I know it's hard to tell at this distance, of course. Very slight a figure. Second, sir, and first off, I feel uncomfortable commenting upon this, Anyway, second, they appear to be looking for you. They have been sent by one of the senators of Silvermarsh in order to act as your body man, to provide you with anything that you need in Silvermarsh, to act as an aide. They figured out pretty quickly that I was not, in fact, you, and apparently I'm not the first person today to have pretended to be you.
Interesting. I think Rorvin just takes out a little bit of parchment and some ink and quill and just writes a little note. Pretty much saying that I'll meet me at such and such time later today at wherever there might be like a town circle or town square. Hand this to them. Let them know it's, well, not for me physically. Well, me physically. You know what I mean. Let them know it's from me.
Yes.
The instructions are there. I'll meet
Understood,
them there.
sir. So he returns back, having taken your past note. in a very middle schoolish way.
Oh yeah.
You and your unit are permitted entry into Silver Marsh. So a low stone wall surrounds this place, but it immediately gives way to the soggy bog that is a city built directly onto the Weakstorm Sea. The coastline here is perfect for the unique brackish waters of Silver Marsh, which allows Silver Marsh to grow its own special form of rice, which can only be grown here in this particular city. As such, almost all of the direct riverine and bog-like coastline has been devoted to that. And so the city is built along the outer edges of each river with large aerial bridges made of wood and rope that go over top of it. So it is almost as if the city is a series of islands of buildings.
Oh, cool. Okay. Essentially making it to town, what Rorvin will do is find some place where you can get some relatively cheap, very common looking clothes.
Okay.
Like an old, dirty brown cloak, and go to the location to meet his contact, essentially.
You're dressing down for this?
Yes.
Okay. No. Look. The audience can see, the Rorvin in his armor and all of his glory that Harea did. Why don't you describe him in your own words first in his original outfit and then in his humble outfit?
Yes. So essentially, in his typical uniform, is he has a face that's chiseled like a Greek statue. So very well defined, somewhat effeminate, somewhat masculine. That perfect mix they somehow had back in the day. With blonde, short, somewhat curly hair, blue eyes, and a leather cuirass with leather shoulder pads. Not formed to the atypical, has the pecs and abs to it. Maybe at some point when I get better armor. With red pants and leather boots and shin guards.
No, let's talk about dress down.
Dress down, he pretty much forgoes the armor, as it would, even though it's leather, it'd still be somewhat bulky. Would switch the sword with a dagger, and pretty much has this worn down black cloak that obviously has some dirt or mud caked to the bottom with rips along it where it's been dragging. Worn leather boots that probably isn't really leather for the most part, and just some regular commoner tan boring clothes.
Interactive cream, huh?
Yeah.
Gonna keep that joke alive forever.
No, not even interactive cream. It needs to be more boring than that. It'd probably be like say accessible beige. That's a basic.
It's literally the color khaki.
Yeah. The nowadays the hip new basic Pinterest mom color.
You arrive at what passes for a town square here, which is a large platform, somewhat centrally located in Silver Marsh, that has been set aside. No buildings are built here. Soil has been transplanted to allow grass and wildflowers and trees to grow here. And there are benches. It's almost like a park surrounded by a boardwalk, essentially. And there are quiet places where people can sit and speak. Your contact comes to meet you there.
Okay. When I see the contact, do I see anybody that might be watching her?
Ooh, make a perception check. If we know one thing in this show about people who make rolls, you either roll really good or really bad for your first roll.
Yeah. So let's. Oh.
Okay,
20.
so you're gonna go really good, huh? All right.
That was
you do
almost
not
a 1.
see anyone following her. So she looks like, from your keen understanding as a military man, and because you rolled a 20, she looks like someone who definitely spent her life trying to become a knight and then has tested out of the program, like not good enough to make it. She definitely has a slight but solid physique to her. But it's also clear, just looking at her hands, you know, not callous enough to have used the sword that she has at her side enough. She is as uncomfortable in civilian clothing as you are. Like, she is wearing like a padded leather blacksmith's vest over top of loose pants, but is moving as if she's wearing some sort of armor. Probably the best way to differentiate her from the knight she could have been was that she doesn't bear any knightly sigilry, nor does she have any of the marks that would be necessary of it. Her sword also does not have the sort of fanciness that perhaps your sword, your real sword, not your little dagger that you have at your side right now,
Right.
does. No one is following her, however. And in fact, two weirdo civilians meeting at this park at this time, just normal people, even with your fashion disasters, not looked upon here in this place. People are just living their life here in the central square of Silvermarsh. Some are merely hanging out at the edge, just resting their elbows on, you know, a wooden ledge, looking at all of the rice being laid down for the next, you know, growing season. Others have taken their children and, you know, are arranging for them to play among the shady trees here. Still others have come out in order to mostly teenage youths to either practice some sort of martial skill or to observe those that are practicing so that they might glean something. There is also a considerable size of elderly people of every race, which can mean a lot more for an elf instead of an orc. You know, an elderly elf is quite elderly, playing dragon chess, the most popular pastime in Silvermarsh, apparently.
Is she sitting on a bench or just standing somewhere?
She's approaching where you are. So the question is, where are you?
Oh, okay. I want to do the bench test. Essentially, it's find like a set of benches where they're one back to back.
Okay. She ignores it and sits directly next to you. Are you Rorvin Nursk?
Are you the? My answer is yes.
Can I ask you to prove that?
I think he will essentially hand her a piece of cloth that pretty much because he has a coin saying that he's from the Dawn Agreement, et cetera,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Essentially, she'll pass the coin covered in cloth over to her, kind of making it look like a.
One side of the coin has your face on it. The other side has the symbol of the Dawn Agreement, a rising sun. So she hands you back a letter that is from the Dawn Agreement for you to read. It's, you know, it's that heavy parchment envelope with the wax seal of the Dawn Agreement on it. And she says, we have something to discuss, but I think you should take a look at this first. I was asked to deliver it.
Thank you. They're not very known for subtlety, it seems.
She looks confused. Subtlety is definitely not in her training.
Yeah. Rorvin will kind of open up the parchment and almost away, it's like a newspaper. Like it swings his like one leg around over top of the other.
Oh, what's the news today? So, you know, it reads something along the lines of Rorvin Nursk. Thank you. To have one of the most influential families in the Arcasian Empire answer the call of the Dawn Agreement brings great joy to my heart. I know we had discussed you moving to Silvermarsh, semicolon. There are deaths that have not been explained happening throughout the city, and I believe that there may be a dark influence happening here. That said, Silvermarsh is also where the discussion of who will be the next emperor of the Oricasian Empire are being held. This mission is for you to undertake in whatever manner you would wish, but I understand that the Silvermarsh Senatorial Council has heard that I am dispatching an agent and may attempt to provide you with assistance should you want it. Either way, your coin will serve you should you need to contact me or any other agents. Sincerely and with great hope in your success, Professor Regina Parson Dracos.
Okay.
So when you turn, the young woman sitting next to you is looking at you with shining eyes as if thinking she's about to go on a grand adventure.
Now, not to disappoint you, but this will not be as open cut as you would think it'd be. This sort of situation requires some sort of subtlety to it.
Sir, I would be honored to serve you. I have been sent by Lieutenant Staragius, one of the local guards commanders, to serve as your body man, as it were. If you need anything, I can help you find it. If you want to find people, I can find that too. If you require subtlety, I will be as subtle as something that is subtle. And then she stands up and salutes you in the middle of the park.
Sit down. Sit down.
Of course. She sits down.
Rule 1, you failed the bench test.
What is the bench test?
Essentially, here, when I'm sitting on this one, you would sit on the other one behind me.
Okay, she gets up and goes to sit on the one behind you.
Okay. Step 2. What I'm planning on doing is that I'm going to set up a dead drop in a couple places in town. I will ask for certain bits of information, and we'll meet here once a day around this time.
Of course, sir. Dead drops. I definitely know what that is.
Would you like me to explain it, or just to make sure we both have the same idea?
It could be called something different here in Silvermarsh.
Yeah, of course. Essentially, is I'm going to pick some locations that you're going to drop off information that I'd like.
And I'm just going to leave it there for you to pick up.
Yes, obviously in spots where no one's really going to look at.
Okay. Yes, that sounds subtle.
The locations how I want you to drop them will be in this parchment here. He'll hand her pretty much selling. It's like, go to like this one alley, put this note under like this, I don't want to say trash can, but like this one crate here, over here at the rice fields. Yeah.
They do have, it's not a trash can, but they do have disposal bin technology. You know, places where you can publicly unload your trash that get taken away later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially like places like under that, and then or like down at the docks in between where there's probably like these big crates that haven't been moved in years.
Perfect.
That's just that.
I would like you to roll a preemptive sleight of hand to see how well this goes.
Okay. Uh, 12.
All right. Regular people will not be able to poke their way into this program.
Oh, okay.
It would take someone actually skilled in looking for it to outrightly find it. You know what I mean? Like some sailor on the dock isn't going to be like, oh, is that a dead drop?
Someone's left a random note over here.
Yeah. No one's going to find those random notes. The only people who are going to find them are people that are looking for them at this point. Not that Rorvin knows that. I'm just informing you right now. Your program is safe from random interference.
Right. The other thing, I'd like to set up a meeting with your lieutenant at some point.
Of course.
The first thing I need you to find information for me is the list of people who have disappeared and any families or friends that they might have.
That is going to be a lot of information, sir, but there actually was just a killing last night in the government complex.
Interesting. Is the body still there?
There's 3 bodies.
And they're still there?
I can't say that I'm quite sure. I left this morning to find you, and then we spent all afternoon finding each other. We could go together. I could use my clearance to get us in. You seem like you don't want to reveal yourself right now.
No, you have the right idea.
Subtle.
Let's go over there now. You go ahead and leave first, and I'll follow.
What is our cover together?
Huh?
What's our cover? Obviously, I'm going as a guardsman. Who are you to come with me?
I'll just be a serf.
But what are you doing in the government complex?
Obviously, I'm a serf to one of the...
You're surfing?
Yeah.
She turns on the bench and puts an arm on the bench to look at you and goes, I don't think you look very surf-like to me, sir, but no one will ask any questions, I'm sure.
Don't worry, I'll fix that on the way.
We can meet Lieutenant Saragias while we're there.
Very well.
I don't know if you know, sir, but as long as we're at the government complex, there are other high-ranking members of the government you could speak to while we're there. You seem like maybe you want to avoid that, though.
For the time being, yes.
Very well. All right, so the 2 of you leave to head to the government complex. So while most of the city is made out of wood that has, throughout the centuries, been varyingly replaced, and so you can kind of get this idea of Silvermarsh. Like, you can both see how it's expanded outwardly. So, like, the stuff that's been the newest built, has that look of new wood to it, and the oldest stuff, has the least sophisticated architectural style, but also what's been replaced recently, right? So the whole city has this sort of patchwork look to it at all times, and is constantly under reconstruction as the local humidity is damaging the wood. And, all the wood's outside all the time. The government complex, however, is made entirely out of stone foundations on the south side of Silvermarsh towards where the river delta meets the coast. And it has that marbled palace look that you would see elsewhere in the Oricasian Empire. However, Silvermarsh is so far from the mountains, this must have been imported at great expense. As you approach, you can see the flags of several influential families are here, including your own. As your army is in the process of disbanding, you are still afforded a flag here to let people know that your military unit is present. And senators from numerous Oricasian city-states. Your companion, who the guard addresses as Caven, allows you access with her, and you make your way into the government complex. She goes to investigate the scene of the crime. The bodies are in fact still there. However, she doesn't have the kind of authority necessary to get too much closer to investigate this. She's not very high ranking. You can see that there are 3 people in a sort of Roman colonnade room right at the entrance to an antechamber, who all have dagger wounds, and blood is everywhere on the white marble. One of them seems to be a military officer, and 2 others are clerics who work here. Sorry, I said clerics. What I meant was clerks.
So I'd say essentially down along the way, he was going to have his hood up. as much as covering his face as much as possible.
Yeah, there's no way that would look suspicious in a government building.
On the way to the government building, obviously you'd have to take it down on there.
A man in a dirty cloak wanders around the palace with his hood up. No one questions him.
Yeah. So essentially, he's going to ask, what she calls her, Corvin?
Caven.
Caven. Okay. Caven, where is your lieutenant?
Oh, did I somehow send a message as you? That was weird.
Did you send a message as me?
Yeah, I did somehow. I don't know how that happened, but Lieutenant Acas is in her office. I can take you there if you'd like to. It's in the eastern wing. It's a bit of a distance from here. You know, this is the central hall of governance. So she gestures around. You know, there's like 2 guards who are keeping anybody from approaching here. And it's not like this was like a busy corridor, but it also wasn't an unused one. And the antechamber where this occurred at led to a records room, and now no one can get in there for the rest of the day. While the bodies are basically just being laid there. It looks like someone came in and reposed the bodies so that they wouldn't, rot. But no one has started cleaning them or anything, or move them in any way.
Okay. Obviously, being a partial government body as well, would he know, like, maybe a shortcut to get to the Eastern Wing, or if it's just there's only one way and it's the long way?
I mean, you can. It's a long way. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no shortcut. You just have to walk in a straight line easternly.
Fair enough.
No, it's like Clue. You open a staircase and you transport instantly to
and
the other
suddenly
side.
you're on the opposite end of the map. Yeah.
It will be a bit of a walk, 20, 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and go.
Okay. You head to the eastern side. You start seeing familiar uniforms of the members of the Orcasian Empire military. Now, each unit answers not to like any central, like there's not the army of Silvermarsh. Everyone answers to a lieutenant of an influential family or like a senatorial family, or those lieutenants answer to captains who are almost always work for, who are senators or who work for senators. You're seeing a lot of high-ranking military officers and not an equal amount of sergeants and regular men. It looks like a huge amount of captains and lieutenants are wandering around here, all trying to keep an eye on each other. It's like you never really seen anything like this. It's just a bunch of fairly highly ranked military officers, all of whom are displaying some sort of Carcassian war, so the Drought War medals and like campaign ribbons, and they're all watching each other. And when you enter, everyone turns to look at you, a civilian. And then, it's just like a brief scan to assess your level of threat and who you are, and then they all look away and keep looking each other up. Caven leans into you and says, "Sir, I don't know if, I can be here, but I definitely can't bring you here." Like that. We could do the prisoner routine. I could say that you're my prisoner, I guess, but I was going to drop you off over here somewhere. What? Oh, we're going to see the lieutenant, right? Are you going to see the lieutenant undercover? It would be weird for me to introduce you, though, because that would definitely give you away. So Caven has, grabbed your hand and stopped and is, doing the galaxy brain math right now, trying to figure out how she can be subtle.
I think Rorvin just, kind of stops her hands, just tell the lieutenant Meet me outside. I can speak with her there.
Oh, okay. All right. Just wait here for a minute. Try not to talk to anybody here.
That's easier. That'll be very easy to do at this moment.
Okay. I just don't want you to get in any trouble. You know, subtle. She comes back after about 2 minutes and talks you through where you can go meet privately with Lieutenant Aegeus.
Okay.
About 20 minutes later, you make your way outside the government complex to like marble picnic tables where there are 2 benches that face away from each other. A woman with stark black hair and red eyes that almost certainly indicate some sort of like tiefling ancestry, and like starch pale skin, approaches and sits down across from you. Now this is definitely a knight military officer. She's not wearing armor, but she has a tattoo on her neck that indicates her rank as a Knight of Silvermarsh. And her sawyer definitely has a sort of flair to it. You know, all 37 pieces that would indicate that she's someone from a family of wealth and influence. So she pulls out what passes for a newspaper. So like, you know, a sheet of paper, and begins talking while looking at it and says, "Can I ask who you are, sir?"
He does essentially the same thing, and well, no, because he's facing the opposite direction at this point.
You have your letter though. You could just read your letter.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much saying he's just going to whip out the letter. Like I have the Dawn Agreement symbol, like right, showing bright and shining.
Sure.
I was here for a mission. I'm Rorvin, by the way.
Rorvin Nursk. I've heard of you.
Yes. Mostly wanted to meet you in person at the moment. I've already talked to your colleague,
Caven.
apprentice, Caven, yes.
If she's not doing a good job, I can have her replaced.
No, she's fine.
Very well.
If I'm going to see if I can look at the bodies. Obviously, I'm going to change. As to right now, at the moment, well.
Can I ask
stick
why
out a
you
sore
don't
thumb.
want to appear as yourself here? It would open a lot of doors.
Yes, but it would also make myself more suspicious.
I can provide you with a Sergeant Guardsman's badge that would allow you free movement throughout Silvermarsh without revealing who you actually are.
That'd be helpful.
I will have Caven deliver it to you later today.
Thank you.
You don't know our procedures, so you won't be able to fool any of the actual guardsmen.
Is there a book of your procedures?
There is. I would hope that you could rely on Caven, however, since this is her actual job.
I've been trying to do it with a little bit of subtlety, but I suppose I could teach her a bit of that.
Sure, you can learn from each other.
Very well.
Are you intending to get involved in city politics while you're here, Lieutenant Nursk?
Yes, mainly due to I have one life, I also have another, and somehow I have to make a mixture of both. Sorry. I'm here for the Dawn Agreement, but I'm also here as a representative of my country, my state, city-state, whatever you want to call it.
I would warn you to stay away from Senator Melianger of Tide Range. I fear that he may be involved in what is going on in this city, and that you would not want your reputation blemished by being close with him.
I'll make note of that.
And Lieutenant, I don't like the idea of a private organization like the Dawn Agreement operating in this city. While I'm not solely responsible for the guards here, I am responsible for several of the districts. It makes me uncomfortable that someone who is not a citizen of this city is investigating what's going on here. However, the Nursk family is influential enough that I can't stop you, nor would I want to stop you as Rorvin Nursk. I'm just concerned that Agent Rorvin Nursk of the Dawn Agreement might have a agenda that doesn't serve the Oricasian Empire. I don't know if that all made sense, but I'm hoping that you get my drift.
I understand.
It makes.
I'll promise you I'm not here for any sort of special agenda myself.
But you
Everything's
are.
going to be... Huh?
You are here for a special agenda.
How about a selfish agenda? I'm here to investigate why these deaths have been happening and what are the cause. And at some point, hopefully eliminate said cause. And my goal is to do that as quietly as possible. Something that you can't do as a noble or some sort of town leader.
She stops pretending to read and turns to look at you across the bench and gives you a hard look and says, "Fine, I'll do what I can to help you reach the end of this."
Thank you. I'm going to get some better looking cloaks. And
I'll have a Sergeant Guardsman's uniform delivered to you through Caven.
that'll work. Thank you. I'll be sure to leave you any information I find.
I appreciate that. She stands up and leaves.
Okay.
Caven reunites with you several minutes later. She's doing that thing where someone who's really neurotic and nervous is like looking through a crowd for somebody and can't find them and has been looking for a while, but then she sees you and tries to pretend like she was cool the whole time.
Okay. It's a Rorvin will motion her over.
All right. She hands you a package that contains, a sergeant guardsman's uniform, cloak clasp of a sergeant. And she says, "Well, I don't know that much about you, Lieutenant Nurse. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself?" Yeah. Let's do this while you're putting your uniform on. Let me take you to the barracks real quick.
If you want to watch, sure, I suppose.
No, we'll do that thing where you stand on one side of the barracks wall and I'll stand on the other, and you'll keep talking while I'm on the other side while you change.
Very well.
You seem like you really like this back-to-back thing, so.
Sure.
All right. We cut to the scene of Rorvin changing, right? But maybe it's the camera's on Caven instead.
No, it's just a camera shot of their heads behind like the privacy things.
So, what can you tell me about yourself, Lieutenant?
I am just that. I'm a lieutenant of a military of my family's military. Though I've also taken into the, I wouldn't say employ, but I guess is more so employ of the Dawn Agreement, as you already know.
Heard about the Dawn Agreement. I'm not really sure what it is. It sounds like it's an army.
Yes and no. Essentially, it's, maybe another time for explanation for that another time. But essentially, I know there's certain things that an army can't do properly, and there's certain things that even the town's guard can't do properly. And And that is times where it needs to be more subtle discretion. Hence why I've been trying to do as much as possible here.
I understand now, sir. Okay. Well, what do you do when you're not, being subtle?
Attend parties, paperwork, training, etc., etc.
Sounds like being a knight is awesome.
Well, not necessarily the flashy kind of knight. Eventually, I tend to have to do the dirty work for them.
So I feel like at this point, you come out and you're wearing the generic descript Sergeant Guardsman, So, I mean, this would be Silvermarsh's army if they had an army, but instead, the Guardsmen are by law restricted access only to Silvermarsh. So there's not a lot of Guardsmen.
Right.
Even in a generic uniform, you still stand out because of your extremely handsome face and your, perfect hair. You still look like an actor who's playing a sergeant in a play. If the sergeant was the main character.
Pretty much, yeah.
So she knows. When you get a look at Caven, she's now wearing her regular guardsman uniform as well. It doesn't have a clasp with a rank insignia on it.
Right. And essentially, after he gets dressed, he's going to take some of his oil from one of his flasks and kind of strategically place it on Marsh's face to kind of dirty himself up.
You look like you've just come from a patrol in the Middens district, sir.
Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yes, it was a compliment.
Now, let's see if we can take a look at the bodies.
So you approach the central complex where the bodies were, right? And one of the guards tries to stop you, and he's like, I've never seen you before. And Caven's just like, are you questioning the sergeant? And he turns to look at your, sergeant's emblem and he goes, well, can't question the sergeant. And the two guards, they don't leave, but they move further to the edges of the room to allow you and Caven some privacy to inspect the bodies.
Yeah. So you said these bodies are reposed, so essentially they're not decaying
They are not
or anything.
decaying for several days.
Right.
Can I ask you to make an investigation check before you ask me anything about this area?
Okay. That's fair.
Your roll will tell me what you get out of it.
Oh geez. All right.
Well, let me say this. You get insight for talking about yourself. So if you'd like to re-roll that.
Oh, inspiration?
Yeah, sorry, inspiration, correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Not much better.
Your rolls are just...
Has that worked out for anybody?
No, I don't think so. I feel like it's a curse. It's definitely a curse. All right, you can ask questions now, and I will give you extremely limited information about what you're looking at.
Excellent. So essentially, the basics I want to know is like, was there a murder weapon left behind?
All three of them have murder weapons.
Okay, so the weapons were left behind.
Correct.
And they were all daggers of some sort, or?
So the two government officials are wearing something akin to togas and seem to have like a dagger strap inside of their togas, like along their chest. They pulled out what seemed to be like sacrifice dagger. Do you know what a kris is? Kris? It's like a wavy Southeastern Asian dagger. Yeah, they have something like that. It looks like a ritualistic dagger. Not really something good for stabbing somebody with, right? Because it's all shaky and wavy. They definitely attacked this person, the military officer, from behind, and both stabbed him in the back several times before that person turned around, drew a very standard issue, like military dagger, like a simple bar of steel that's been sharpened on both ends, and slit both of their throats. All three of them expired of blood loss shortly after that.
Okay, so the one of the bodies is a government official. The other two are
No. 2 government officials, 1 military officer.
Oh, okay.
So two government officials attacked the military officer from behind.
Okay.
He responded by turning and killing them.
Interesting. So first I want to look at if there are like any particular markings on the blade, the dagger. The sacrificial
dagger blade?
one. Yeah.
The sacrificial daggers. Can you make a Arcana check real quick? That's a really fucking good question for somebody who rolled a junk-ass investigation check. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you there are markings, but the question is whether you recognize them.
Right.
Oh, yeah, there's
14.
some fucking markings on these. It is not difficult for an officer like yourself who worked in the Drought War to recognize the markings of the Cult of Jubilix.
Cult of Jubilix. Okay.
So that's the demon who instigated the Drought War and then was sealed by the Dawn Agreement's combined forces.
Okay. And both of them had the daggers. Okay. And the next thing I want to see is if they have any. Well, essentially, I'm going to loot these guys in the sense I'm investigating them.
But you rolled a shitty investigate.
Yeah.
Sure.
So obviously, I probably don't find anything. But essentially, I want to see their bodies, see if they also have the same markings on them.
On one of the government officials, on his back, it's covered by the toga, but it's close to the base of his spine. There is another marking. It's not of Jubilix, but it is definitely some sort of demonic rune that has been tattooed into their body. The second government official does not have that rune as well. Neither of the 2 government officials were carrying anything extraneous on them besides just wearing their togas and, like sandals. The military officer has like some money on them, like a handful of copper and a couple pieces of silver. Their dagger, their officer's sword as a sergeant, and they have a full uniform that indicates that they were a member of the Tide Range contingent. So their uniform indicates that they're from a different city-state.
Okay.
This person did not fight in the Drought War. He doesn't have any ribbons from that. He does have a number of commendations. So it should be noted that this guy's like 20 years older than everyone else in this room, comparatively, given the fact that everyone here is humans.
Right.
But his uniform indicates that he either is a cleric or has some form of healing power, and over the last 20 years of service has been repeatedly involved in like aiding or healing people directly. So his division was directly responsible for like unbreaking people's bones and like helping with disease, something like that. Those are all of his commendations. Nothing like I served on the front lines or I was a sailor. It's all I sat in an office and healed people.
The runes on their people's back.
One person, one of the officials
one person's
has it.
back.
Yep.
Does it mean anything particular, or out of my understanding?
I would ask you to make another Arcana check.
I will gladly make it and probably fail it. Yeah.
It has something to do with a goat.
Of course, a goat. Is there anything else? There's no sort of like, and this is me asking with a 7 investigation. There's no sort of like flute or anything in the sacrificial blade for maybe like a poison or
Nope.
Something like that? Okay.
Nothing like that. I mean, these daggers, given their waviness, not possible.
Right. Essentially, it's just odd that a healer, unless they weren't a magical healer.
He definitely appears to be, given his campaign ribbons, a magical healer.
Okay.
Either that or somebody that can buy a lot of healing potions.
Yeah. It's just odd that he got stabbed, cut both of the other guys' throats, but didn't heal himself, or he just only
That's
had
right.
enough energy
That
to do.
is odd.
Yeah. Um. I was trying to think what else I can add. That I'm probably just going to get rejected on. As far as the floor, obviously, in this struggle, and being this guy is a magical healer, didn't immediately try to heal himself before he bled out. Is there any signs of maybe a fourth person that was around?
Listen, what a great question. And I'll tell you what, I'll give this to you. So you're like looking around and Caven goes, oh, yeah, it was over here. And she like gestures to where there's some bloody boot prints you didn't see before.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Says, oh, yeah. No, you get really good at looking for boot prints and blood in this job. She says that like it's a positive thing.
Say Rorvin like here's that head, just kind of shakes his head like sure, thank you. So the boot print, is it just one boot print or is there a series of them?
It's like someone accidentally stepped in the blood one time, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, so there's a couple of spots.
Having just put them on, you're pretty sure these boots are standard issue Guardsman boots for the city of Silver Marsh.
Interesting. Any direction where the boots were like heading towards? Not that it matters much, but
towards the southern edge of the room. So like towards the like port side of this palace where like government warships would dock at.
Okay.
What do you make of this, sir?
Well, obviously, this man was a magical healer, so he was stabbed from the back, but managed to turn around and slip and kill the other two before dying. It was just weird that he didn't heal himself after he died, which meant there had to been at least a fourth person, which by this boot print that would signify that.
None of the other guardsmen have been able to figure that out. You're a genius. But if he's a magical healer, where's his, magic stuff?
It depends on what way he heals.
Oh, is there a difference?
Yes.
Do you know a lot about magic, sir?
I know a little bit. The other thing is that by the before he says it, he's going to look at the other guards there.
Yeah.
And see if there might be any sort of blood stains on them, on their boots.
Make a perception check.
Okay. Nine.
Wow, man, you're throwing this.
Apparently. I'm rolling all. I shouldn't have dumped my wisdom. That's what I'm learning.
Hey, look, I've had this conversation with Cotton before. The perception is the one check you're always going to have to make. Yeah. You want to put proficiency in it, and you want to be good at wisdom, no matter what character type you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take a look around at both of their boots. Seems pretty clean.
Okay.
Given the fact that they're in a room that has congealing blood everywhere.
Yeah. So being that, it's like by these footprints, it looks like they're standard issue boots.
She gasps. You're saying one of us did this? Impossible. Someone must have stolen our boots.
It's possible. Though there's reason to suspect that it could have been someone along with the lines that are leached with these two supposed officials.
So you hear something happening in the hallway nearby. Someone very loudly is saying, "If his army is here, then he has to be here. I'm telling you, you aren't my body man for nothing. Find me Lieutenant Nursk, or find yourself a new job." And then you hear like rapid footsteps, like on the marble.
Let's get these bodies cleared out of the way. We've deemed all we can from these bodies at the moment.
Can we do that, sir?
We'll get a hold of the right people that can.
Okay, understood. I'll send a message to my lieutenant.
By the voice who was shouting, is it someone that sounded familiar?
What city state are you from?
Oh, I don't know if we ever. It'd probably be. Probably Lucille.
Okay. Yeah, you have no idea who this is. It's okay. A loud, elderly, probably elven or half elven man, given his accent.
Right.
Trying to sound as intimidating but senatorially as possible. Bring me pictures of the Spider-Man. That's it. He's just played by that guy. What, J.K. Simons or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that what his name is?
I think Caven, I'm going to meet up with you later.
I understand. I'll wait at one of the dead drops.
Okay. Rorvin's just going to take the dagger and
so which dagger?
The sacrificial one. One of the sacrificial ones.
Shock. Okay.
I need to look at this more later, essentially.
Okay. Now, are you just going to openly carry a dagger with the mark of Jubilix on it?
No, he's probably going to just wrap it around with some cloth or something.
Okay.
And hide it.
I was going to say, this is a man who wants to get arrested immediately.
Yeah. Trying his best not to fully wipe it clean, kind of keep it as a state it is as best he can.
Right.
And then start heading towards a section where he can change to go into his official attire.
I love that this campaign is just like a dress change. You know what I mean? Like palette swapping Rorvin constantly.
Pretty much.
All right. You're back in your Rorvin Nursk attire, right? That's what we're going for? Pretty
much, yeah.
Okay.
Because obviously there's official business I have to do here.
Sure. What do you want to do?
It's essentially see if I can find that. Find as in show in an area where that body man is.
You find the body man. Go like outside the building, speaking with a number of your sergeants and just regular guardsmen of your army, asking desperately where they can find you. And they're all like, you know what? Piss off. We're going for a drink. One of them's just like, I don't know. I think he went home to Lucille. This aide is like out of his mind, like, oh no, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna lose my job and I'm gonna die. I don't know if I'll be able to feed my family without this job. It's a good job. And then they turn and they see you and they go, oh, are you Lieutenant Nursk?
Yes. Who needs me?
All right. They like get their own cape and like blow their nose and dry their own eyes and I bring word from Senator Melianger of Tide Range. He'd like to meet with you.
This is the one that I was warned about, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What you do here, you might be drawn into the high world of politics that you wanted to avoid.
As much as I possibly can, yeah. I have some time to briefly meet with him. We'll see.
We do the Star Wars like you're in the senator's office. So this isn't his city state. So the office is quite small. It's like a guest room essentially that a dozen people are going through papers, speaking to each other, It's like if you watch in any movie about like a illegal stock trading company, right? Imagine all of that compressed into a guest bedroom. And the senator himself is just seated at the only actual table here and says, "Everyone get out." Lieutenant Nursk.
Hello, Senator.
Your family has some influence in Lucio, if I am remembering correctly.
Indeed.
I wanted to talk to you about who will be the next emperor.
Very well.
I'd like for it to be my ward. And I'd like you to give me the backing of the Nursk family. You can't trust these Silver Martians. They're militant. They want to continue conquering Carcass, absorb them into the Empire. We need to take measures defensively rather than offensively. We need to bring our empire back to what it was before the Drought War, before we got involved with this Damon Jublix stuff. You understand? I'm not impressed by Silvermarsh's posturing, and I don't want them to be deciding who the next emperor is. I need to get as much influence behind me as possible. Can I count on you, son?
Well, I do not. I haven't even met who your ward is.
Look, do you really need to know who my ward is in order to cast your vote in my favor? I assure you that my beliefs will be their beliefs.
And I assure you, I'd rather not just nilly-willy give my family's word, as I would be a representative of them while they're up in the Lucio still.
He says, "Good, shrewd. Not willing to fall for the first person that tries to influence you. That's good. You know, some of the people that step into this office are weak-willed sheep. I appreciate a man like you, Nursk. Obviously, I'd rather have your support sooner rather than later, but I'm willing to do what it takes to earn it."
Very well. I'll arrange for some time where I can meet your ward so I can ask him some questions myself. Then give my judgment later.
He gives you a hard look. Make a persuasion check.
Nope, that's not the right one. This one. That was almost a one.
Oh, shit. You have a +7?
Yeah.
At level 3? How did you?
Yeah.
How?
Expertise.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good.
I was a bard. I had to at least put expertise and persuasion.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Fine.
I thought about putting in perception.
I don't know if I'm ready to have you meet my ward yet. I'll tell you what. I can arrange for you to play a game of dragon chess with him. And you'll be allowed to discuss whatever you want with him then. How about that?
Wouldn't that just be meeting your ward?
I would prefer that this meeting be as private and off the books as possible. Look, you may not be as involved in politics as I am, but I want to keep my cards as close to the hand as possible, and I don't need the other factions here finding out that I'm courting some of the families from Lucille. This has the potential to upset the balance of power here, which is what I want, but it's what they don't want. So, I don't know if you know anything about subtlety or court games, but I'd like to use you as something of a trump card if I can.
I can see, though obviously I'm not the most subtle visually. I'm a lieutenant, for Christ's sake, or goodness sake.
It would not be unusual for someone like you to have a lieutenant to have a brief tactics lesson with a imperial candidate. As long as we keep your name off of the roster, it'll be fine. He stands up and puts a hand out towards you for a shake, and he says, "I look forward to convincing you of the righteousness of my cause."
He'll do
Yeah.
Yeah, Rorvin will do the shake, but he fully extends out and grabs his forearm.
Oh, you're doing the man shake, the predator shake, where you're. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of this lately. I feel like I just did this earlier. Oh, I did it in Solaris Nights. All right, man shaking very popular lately.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, you man shake.
It was a pleasure to meet you. I must get on with my business.
You have more business? It's getting quite late.
Yeah, my business is sleep.
All right. Can we do the Star Wars cut to you heading to someplace to sleep for the night?
Essentially, yeah.
I don't know that we arranged for where you're going to sleep tonight, but the scene is you and Caven walking through the wooden upper tiers of Silver Marsh. And you see, as the sun is setting over top of the Western Mountains, there are 4 men trying to get a cart out of the mud where the rice is. So they've like taken, the they've harvested the old rice and are putting it in the cart. I can't think of the word for that. And they're having a lot of trouble getting it out of the mud. And one of the guys is just like, God's help me. If only we had someone who could just give us one push, one word of encouragement. I could feel it. You could see all of them pushing the cart together, but it's
Use
struggling
your legs,
to
not
get
your
it.
back.
Are you bardic inspirationing them?
Yes.
Okay. See, this is the scene I wrote for if you hadn't, because you just revealed that you were a bard, and I don't think anybody knew that until that moment. This was going to be my reveal scene, but I wanted to do it anyway.
I think it was revealed when I had the +7, though I probably could have played off as the rogue.
I don't know. You could be a paladin if you have a +7 charisma. Warlock.
Well, no, I mean,
fine.
you at this level you can't get +7 unless you
A rogue.
Yeah, unless you're a rogue or a bard because you have expertise.
Yeah, they heave together, and with your word of encouragement, the 4 of them strain, and the magical influence that you have gives them just enough strength to push it out. And one of them turns and takes off his cap and says, "Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was great magic that filled my limbs." And Caven is like just slow clapping next to you and says, "Incredible. What magic you must have, sir. I didn't realize that you were a magic user like that who uses magic."
Let's keep it between us, please.
Of course, sir. I won't tell anybody.
Thank you.
And that's it. That's the final scene, is the 2 of you wandering to go figure out, I guess, where Rorvin is going to stay for the night.
Essentially, he'd probably just buy himself some
nice hotel or something.
No,
He's just going to buy the whole hotel, actually.
He's not lined with money in his pockets.
This isn't that kind of campaign. We don't need to get bunkered down in the minutia of that. This isn't some of my other D&D campaigns.
Yeah.
Lawson was like, "Do I have to track rations?" And I was like, no. Shh, child. No, not in this one.
That gets too tedious too quick.
Look, there are campaigns where that's worthwhile, and there are others where it's not. Friends, thank you for joining us for this, the 3rd episode of Dawn Agreement. There will be 2 episodes recorded tomorrow, so you're going to get all of that Dawn Agreement all at once. Of course, I'm going to be releasing them on different days, so, pace yourselves. Don't big spoon yourself. Pondo T. Maddington, why don't you tell us who you are, so if people enjoyed your episode, they might know more about you and can follow you for more Rorvin Nursk quotes on Twitter.
I am Pondo or Pondo the Mad. You can find me on YouTube or Twitch /Pondo the Mad, or you can find me Saturday nights with Rogue Trader with pretty much the other cast of that show. And or you can find me occasionally when it comes out, the Ranch Simulator on AP's channel. If you ever want to get hold of me, you can find me on Discord. You can find me on Pondo the Mad at Twitter. That's it.
Wouldn't you also say that you're my editor for videos, and one might say that you're available for hire for video editing?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say that I
I
am
just
available.
want to make sure that that's on the table there, you know, for the people. All right, that's it. You'll get another episode tomorrow. Go home. Can't stay here.